Good evening and welcome to the Sunderland Elementary School Committee meeting, Tuesday, September 17th. Called to order at 7 o'clock. First item on the agenda. First, I would just like to welcome Marty Barrett, our new superintendent. And moving on, we can review and approve the minutes of June 17th, 2013, which seems like a lifetime ago. Any questions or changes or errors?
To approve the minutes of June 17th,
Second.
2013.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And we'll go back to the financial statement, or do you want to do it, or we?
Well, I think Patty is prepared to do it, so if
Okay.
we could postpone it until she arrives, I think that would make more sense.
Okay. And we have any public comment? No? Nothing old to wrap up, and lots of new business, discussion items. And the first item is a donation,
Yes.
and Principal Merritt, do you wanna?
So I wanted to bring the committee's attention and ask for your approval of the acceptance of a gift, a donation in the amount of $300. This is an anonymous donation. In honor of Walter Camus. Walter is a Sunderland resident, a longtime resident. He was a professor of art at UMass for decades, nearly 3 decades. And Walter was a benefactor of the school. If you come into Sunderland School, in front of the main office, you'll see this very large abstract in red and sort of berries and dark colors, kind of thought-provoking. And that's a painting of Walter's that he donated to the school a number of years ago. Sadly, Walter passed away recently, and well into his 90s. Certainly had a very rich and regal life. And I just wanted to read in his honor a notation from a biography that's posted right by his painting in the main foyer. And among other things, it mentions that Walter was the first director of the university's art acquisition program at UMass, which he began in 1962. That's the year your principal was born, so it was quite a long time ago. Camus acquired more than 900 paintings and drawings and sculptures for the university's collection, which now numbers well beyond 2,000. And he became the first director of the university gallery, which I bet many of us have been to over there and heard her, the buildings on campus, when it opened in the newly built Fine Arts Center in 1974. He was a man who didn't hold his opinion to himself. He would come in and share coffee with us and his opinions about education and art and how important art was to school children. And he was a man of his word who not only donated money and art, but also his ideas. And we're proud to have him as a benefactor, and we're proud to have his presence in the building. And I would ask that the committee consider this donation on his behalf and accept that. I think you have to vote on that.
Yes. Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the gift?
I'll make a motion to accept that gift.
Second that motion?
Any discussion, comment? No? Thank you so much. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, deletion of existing policy BEDB-1, agenda preparation and dissemination.
Sure. We're going to continue with the past practice of giving you the proposed policies 1 month, showing you the existing, and then asking you to vote the second month. These basically are policies that the law had changed slightly on, and that our attorney wanted to clean up some of the language. So the substance really isn't that different. It's just some of the words around it. The one change, and I just want to make sure that it may have been indicated in yours since you had a meeting that was a little later, on policy BE BEC1. I'll just bring to your attention that the other two schools in the second line, where it says appropriate members of the administrative staff, it had originally read on policy BEC1, the proposed one, executive staff, and it was suggested at one of the other school committee member meetings to change it to administratives, as we do not have an executive staff. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. Most of them are pretty straightforward, just trying to clean up the language and not duplicate some of the wording around open meetings and executive session. So I'll be bringing these to you next month for a vote.
And that would cover C, is that the adoption and all of these, right?
Correct. It goes
Okay.
down, it's
B, C,
items
and
B,
D.
C, and D.
Okay. Any questions? As of yet?
So we'll vote on this next meeting.
Correct.
Yeah, it'll be on your agenda for a vote next month.
Thank you. Next item, E, summer building maintenance update.
Yeah, so summer building maintenance update. In past summers, we've done some sort of major, taken the time to do some major projects. This summer, frankly, it was limited to, you know, the restripping of the building and the resealing, and also the power washing of the outside areas, and also the painting of the grade 1 through 6 corridor, and then painting of trim inside and around the building. Honestly, in terms of any kind of major projects up ahead, you know, I think throughout the year, we'll identify some areas for consideration. I will say right off the bat, I think probably in the next cycle, we might want to consider some of the windows on the south-facing side, because of the extreme heat that they go through with these big, kind of irregular, very customized windows treatments. A lot of the wood around the insides and stuff needs some work, and that'll probably be a little more than just, you know, something that my present staff, that David Grace, could take care of. But generally speaking, I'm very pleased with the condition of the school as we entered it in the fall. I think it looks great. Again, right now, we have essentially a 1.5 custodial staff. We have a full-time custodian during the day, and we have a 4-hour a shift custodian at night. And I think they did a great job getting the building ready for the summer, for our return in the fall. So no lavish projects to report on, frankly. I know that the town has hired a new landscape person to come and cut the lawns, and he's doing a pretty good job. We want to get a little more attention maybe to the back of the building. And he literally, I think, just started maybe 3 weeks ago. So we'll
So was there
we'll
like
get
a
it right.
lag, maybe?
I think there was,
Okay,
Trace, and I'm not, it felt like there might have been some, you know, as they look to.
Make the transition in?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it might have even been time when we actually got some rain.
Right.
So I know what you're saying, because Marty, as you know, so many people are on this campus at all times, and, you know, I've had a few comments around a little bit of the back
Yeah.
of the building.
It just got long.
It got long,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
not
exactly.
dangerously longer.
Yeah, no, but, yeah. But, yeah, generally speaking, though, I think the building's in great shape, and we were ready when we opened the doors a few weeks ago.
Ice skates are gonna be
Oh,
passed
yeah.
out for,
Just so that's clear, you understand what that was about, I think most of you do. That was about the heavy air, the warm air coming into the building, meeting with a cold temperature of the concrete slab underneath the floors. Because some people and I get it, some people mistakenly said, oh, the building's flooding, there's water rushing in the building.
Oh.
And of course, in Sunderland, that's nothing we joke about, you know, so, but that's what it was. I appreciated, you know, Marty's guidance on that, and I think we kind of walked everyone through it, and we were luckier than Amherst, we didn't have to cancel that next day.
I know, that's tough, man.
Yeah, and frankly, it gave us a chance to test our Alert Now system early on, you know, and know that we had the right numbers on the database or we didn't, so out of chaos comes good stuff.
It'll practice.
93 or mid-90s in September, right after
That's right.
cold weather. It's crazy. But there you go.
Great, and summer programs.
Programs. Well, I can tell you that in Sunderland, we didn't have, we didn't host summer programs. Years ago, when I first started, we were making sure that our staff was up on responsive classroom. We were actually hosting it here. I think a lot of you knew that. We haven't done that for years. We'd be happy to, but Northeast, the folks who run responsive classroom chose to do some other things and present it in different places in New England. During the summer, however, the building was busy. We did have some teachers tutoring students here during the summer. I think there was even an informal continuation of the playgroup drop-in, so there was some presence there. And of course, a lot of our teachers were involved in summer reading and writing camps up in Deerfield, but we didn't host particularly anything this summer. And actually, it was probably a good thing that we didn't have any extra things, because we were getting ready to build some new classrooms and do some different things inside the building, so that helped us out.
Personnel changes.
Well, I wanted to draw your attention to that. You do have a listing of all the personnel changes, the names, and who they replaced. But you may also notice that there are a number of new staff. And I need to make you aware that we have had an influx of about 6 students who have enrolled in Sunderland whose needs are fairly profound, which has resulted in us having to hire some additional staff. We currently have been able to fund those positions through the budget and through revenue of school choice. However, having said that, you're probably going to see some increase in budget as we start the process, next month and into November. So I just wanted to alert you to that's something that is probably going to be with us for a while.
And that's outside of that New Horizons program, or that might be
Yes.
wrapped into some of that?
No,
That's
it's
Okay, so
separate.
the New Horizons was all
These are new
planned.
students who are enrolled
Okay.
to our school,
Moved into town.
moved
Okay,
into
got
town,
it.
Moved
so.
into town. That's,
So, and that's, that's always the question mark, you just never know. And some are very recent, within the
Yeah.
past week or so,
and actually,
so.
yeah, and some, frankly, we think are coming, and yet haven't absolutely been enrolled yet. So it's amazing. We haven't had that in Sunderland for a few years. And it's definitely caused us to just, be aware and move as fast as we can. And I credit the staff for, really, our staff already has had to make a number of changes in sort of last minute to accommodate. But
The children like it,
we're doing it.
yeah.
We're having a great
From
time.
their eyes, it's really
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah,
No, and it's, and that is what it is, and this is what we do. But from a budgetary, perspective, it's something you need to be aware of. Fortunately, Patty and I met, and we met with Karen Ferrandino and have met separately with Tim. We do have it covered for this year. So, but I just need to have you aware for the future. Okay?
It's good. Yeah, because it looks like our, looking at the choice in numbers,
yeah.
that our choice fund should be pretty, maybe even a little slightly more than we were counting on.
Yeah, we've
coming in-
increased,
coming in.
yes.
So.
We're
I
higher
don't
in
know
choice
what's
than we
going
thought.
out. Right.
We're also, about 40 more children in the building
Yeah.
now than when I started
Yeah.
4 years ago.
It's the first time I've seen us over
I'm-
200
I
in a
know.
long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Number, yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, as Tracy mentioned, there's a real nice energy in the building.
Yeah.
My son was really excited. A
But
new
it's-
guy started on Monday.
Yeah.
He was really happy.
Great. Okay, next item is MASC, MASS Joint Conference. We need to pick a delegate. Think a couple, or one, at least one or two people
We
are
have two going, I
I
believe,
am
Tracy
going, yeah,
and
me and Tracy
Amy.
are going, but I won't, that's for Wednesday, right?
So It is, yeah, I believe it's the first day, and we choose a delegate. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be there and vote, but if you are there, you will have the ability. It's a very lively discussion of all the school committee members that go, and, people bring forward, different things that we actually may have already gotten them. Sort of recommendations that the MASC makes, and you can listen to the discussion and be a voting member.
Voting is actually Friday, Penny.
Oh.
Oh, it is Friday,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Why- I don't
brought to
know
my
why I
attention.
thought it was early on in the week, so.
So,
Yeah, oh, good, okay. So, would either of you like to be our delegate?
I am really fresh off the press here, the new one. Amy's
Yes,
the
I'm happy to be the
veteran.
delegate.
Great.
Sure.
And do I have a motion to accept Amy Zioli as the delegate representative to MASC?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Bless you.
Carla, second, yeah.
Thank you. And we can go back to
Yeah, I can take that one.
the financial.
Okay. I'm gonna hand out two reports tonight. This first one is the final 2012-2013 report, which shows we expended all our funds and there's nothing to be returned to the town. And then the second report is our first one for the 2013-14 year, which is the July and August activity, which shows our normal startup costs, such as the administrative payroll, instructional supplies, and maintenance work that was done during the summer. We have 7 warrants to sign tonight. We've got our monthly expenses. There's one for FYN 13 encumbered funds, one for the fiscal agent payroll, student activity funds, the school choice, which paid the summer tuitions, the after-school program expenses, and the early childhood tuition revolving account.
Any questions? Sorry, just perusing. Okay. Questions, comments, anyone? No?
Great.
Thanks, Patty. And next item is reports. Do we want to start with Louise, or?
Why don't we start with Louise and have her do her presentation?
Great.
Yes, you can join us here at the table, or you can,
You wanna sit here? Would you like to sit?
PowerPoint,
All
but,
right.
okay, so I'm here to share with you, the work of many teachers over the course of a year. They're all the same.
Oh, they're,
I'm
okay.
just making tests.
Okay.
Which is, our new report card. And, in your folders, we've changed the report card because of changing standards. And our old report card, or the one that we used up until June, was no longer matching our teaching, the teaching. That report card was formed about 12 years ago. So it matched the standards then. Standards have changed, so there was a mismatch between what teachers were teaching and what they were having to fill out on the report cards. So we spent a year looking together, a committee from across the district, teachers from across the district. We looked at report cards from all over the country, frankly, because we now have very common standards, these Common Core standards. And a big shift in report cards is away from grades, A, B, C, and more towards targeting standards. How close are you to mastering this standard? So families are going to get a lot more information about what their child's skills, how close they are to grade level standards, and they're going to get it more frequently we had before January and June, we were on semester, and we felt that with this information, it would be more useful to families to have it more frequently. So we will now have a trimester, meaning the report cards will go home in the very beginning of December, the first one. The second one will be in March, and the last one will be in June. That way, if a student is struggling, it's earlier in the year. There's more time to put in some supports for that child, and families will be very informed about what their child is doing in school. So it's a lot more information. So in order to help families understand what they're going to see on their child's report card, the first thing is we're going to give packets out on open house that will contain what you see here, a parent guide that explains what, why and what, a sample of the report card of that child's grade level, we'll have these by grade level, and a frequently asked questions. So thinking about what questions we anticipated, what questions families might have. In addition, I made a PowerPoint, a narrated PowerPoint that we're going to post on the website to explain it in more detail for families who would like a little bit more detail. And I'd be pleased to share it with you this evening, if there's time. It's between 5 and 10 minutes. And I want to thank Mr. Merritt. We actually finished working on it about 2 hours ago. So, yeah, Mr. Merritt helped me. I had narrated it, and then I thought it would be helpful because the principals have been very supportive of this work to have their voices as part of this as well. So he helped me put some of the narration. So I'm going to switch to over there unless you have questions before, because I think the PowerPoint will give you the overview in more detail than what's here, but then we can see what questions you have. Does that work for you? See that first?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. It should, and I'm about to start.
The audio will be coming out of.
The Union 38 School District is pleased to present our new standards-based report card. Classrooms have changed a great deal in the last 50 years. Students today are encouraged to be more active in their learning. The ways that teachers measure students' progress has changed as well. Over the last few years, educators in public schools across the United States have begun to teach students with a curriculum that meets the requirements of national standards called the Common Core. In 2011, Massachusetts published curriculum documents that included the National Common Core standards for math and English language arts. These standards are challenging, rigorous, and are designed to prepare students for college and careers. Our district curriculum is based on the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. In our district curriculum, we have identified specific standards or goals for each grade level in all subject areas. These standards describe what a student is expected to know, do, and understand. In standards-based instruction, instruction is clearly connected to standards, and grade-level learning goals are clearly communicated to students.
A standards-based assessment and reporting system supports student growth in many ways.
A standards-based report card communicates students' progress towards mastering these grade-specific learning goals.
Since learning goals are now more specific, Our report cards have been designed to be more specific about students' progress to mastering grade level goals. Instead of receiving one overall grade for a subject, the new report card offers detailed and specific information about skill and concept development. Standards-based report cards ensure consistent instruction, learning goals, and assessment practices across classrooms and schools. Here are some examples of learning goals for reading for first and fourth graders. You will notice how these goals are challenging and highly specific. These are examples of goals for mathematics. The new report cards will offer more detailed information than parents and students are accustomed to seeing. Instead of grades, students work towards mastery of standards. Here is the key that you will see on your child's report card. M for mastery is the goal for the grade level. M means that a student consistently demonstrates proficiency in the standard. AP. Approaching means that a student demonstrates skills that are approaching the standard. BG. Beginning means that a student demonstrates beginning skills. NY means that a student has not yet demonstrated evidence of a skill. And lastly, M+. Mastery plus means that a student consistently and independently demonstrates skills and thinking that are above and beyond the standard for the grade level.
Let's look at an example. In second grade, a language standard is that students will use known spelling patterns and high-frequency words when writing. Starting at the top, a student who is not yet demonstrating this skill might show something like this. A beginning skill might look something like this. Approaching, mastery, and then mastery plus. Mastery plus goes beyond the expectation of the classroom. Standards-based report cards identify academic strengths and areas needing further growth. Our former report card was also based on standards. Grades and numbers were used to indicate achievement and progress. In grades 4, 5, and 6, students' achievement was reported with letter grades. All of us are used to seeing these kinds of letter grades. But a letter grade does not tell you or your child about which particular skills are meeting grade level standards. Letter grades can sometimes be inconsistent from one teacher to the next. In the standards-based system, students' progress is reported along the lines of proficiency, from beginning to approaching to mastery of grade level goals. Sometimes students' skills and thinking go beyond what is expected at the grade level. This will be indicated on the report card by M+, Mastery Plus. This is a change from students receiving one overall grade on a subject to receiving information about how close the specific skills are to mastery of the grade level standards. Here's an example of the kind of information you will see on the new report card. In this example, the student has mastered some of the skills, is approaching mastery in others, and there are some skills or standards that have not yet been covered in class. Students will be offered many opportunities and different formats for demonstrating their mastery of skills throughout the year. Important skills that support learning will also be reported on our new report card. You will see a report of your child's classroom and community skills, classroom expectations will be found under Approach to Learning. Students will now receive report cards 3 times a year, December, March, and June. There are many ways parents can encourage and support your child when they receive their very first report card this year. The biggest change is how we think about grades. Students will move from thinking about what grade did I get to what have I learned and how close am I to mastering important skills. The Union 38 School District is pleased to present our new standards-based. It just looped itself, I'm sorry. So, let me escape. So, do you have any questions about it?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Because the kids are gonna say, is that an A or a B, or, you know what I mean? So, in their daily work, or, you know, their little projects and things like that, will that come home with the M or the?
Yes.
Okay, so it
Yes.
will all be turning to this?
Yes,
Okay.
we have switched the whole thing, and big differences. A's, B's, first of all, they're inconsistent from teacher to teacher, we all know that, somebody's A is somebody else's B. And it really is that students, and I remember myself in school, what did the teacher give me on my report? This now has the child owning the learning and the progress and saying, how close am I to hitting mastery? And teachers are using what we call rubrics and telling kids ahead very clearly, on this project, to get mastery, you need to have 2 references, you need to have at least 3 paragraphs, and making it very clear, use descriptive language. And so it encourages much more clarity on each assignment from teachers and much less subjectivity on the part of the grader, because it's the child is in control of knowing what the target is. And also part of the standards-based system is giving children multiple opportunities. So if they hand in a report or a project that is not at mastery, they'll be given another opportunity and support to get to mastery. That's part of a standards-based system. It's about making everyone succeed versus ranking children. So it's a very different approach, which represents much more current thinking about assessing skills and thinking of them as targets you're aiming for rather than gifts that come from the teacher.
And not quitting.
Yeah,
Staying
and
with
not giving up.
Right.
Multiple opportunities to reach
Right.
mastery. Just like it's analogous to learning a new sport or an instrument. First time somebody sits down at a piano, they haven't mastered it. But we don't grade their first few attempts. We say, this is what the piece of music sounds like. You might have to practice, somebody might have to practice 10 times, and someone else might have to practice 20 times. But the goal is to make this piece of music. It's analogous to that. Or a new sport, going out to play tennis. First time, first 100 times I played tennis, I wasn't mastering it. And so, but somebody wasn't on the side saying, well, that's a C minus, right? I knew what the target was and kept playing. So that's a mastery mindset, a standards-based mindset, isn't just about what you get on the report card. It's about thinking about making a target and supporting children to get there.
Louise, do you find that are most school districts switching over to this
Yes.
type of? Yeah.
Yes, if you, in Massachusetts, I would say, I found at least 85 out on the internet that have switched to this, mostly the more progressive districts in and around Boston. But it really is, if one is teaching these new Common Core standards, it's very difficult to reconcile that with a grading system.
They don't match.
It's not conducive to that. Because the standards are rigorous, we want to offer more encouragement and support to get our children to those rigorous standards, to get them to be able to hit mastery. And the reason many school districts don't have Mastery Plus, they just stop at mastery, but we wanted to acknowledge and recognize that sometimes children shoot beyond, and to not have them feel like they're done learning. We're never finished learning. And that's the difference between sort of an A, which says, oh, you finished, you're done. And Mastery Plus, we can show them, your skills are, you're starting to look like a 5th grader in your reading right now. And being very transparent about that with children. And children who are struggling, we're not going to give them a C or a D. They're at the beginning. That's a much more hopeful message to everybody. And this is what we're going to do to help you get to approaching, you're close. And this is what we're going to do to help you to get to mastery. So that is the whole switch in how we think about reporting to children and families progress towards achieving high standards. So it's a very different way to think about it. And teachers are working very hard to create very clear rubrics and clear definitions for children on different reports about what they need to do to achieve mastery. So again, it puts it in the control of the child versus the adult.
Is that something that could potentially in some form go to the website as a
Yes,
little?
absolutely, that's the intention.
And that was, okay, yeah.
Yes, the intention is that any family who receives the report card, or before they receive it, that would be the goal, they can watch it. And also I put my phone number, my school phone number, on all of the pamphlets. I'm more than happy to speak with parents who have more questions, try to anticipate questions. But yes, that will be up on the website on all of the schools.
Great.
As well as teachers will point it out on open house that if you're interested, parents will get this packet to take home and think about, so that they're not surprised when the first report card, and hopefully when things are coming home, children will be talking in that language that I'm almost mastering this. And again, what a more hopeful and standards-based way to think about your learning. I'm aiming for a goal, not doing my best and hoping I get a grade that I like. So we will put that out, and parents also at parent conferences, which are at the end of October, teachers will have the report card, a blank version, and talk about where they're anticipating, where the child is right now, and if there are areas that need extra support, parents can have that discussion with the teacher about, here's a skill that needs more practice, or this is what our plan is. So it's more accountability for everybody.
And then they'll also go home in the report
Yes.
card, so then they
Yes.
open it, and then here it is,
Yes.
because open house came and went, and.
Sure,
Okay.
and the frequently asked
Okay.
questions.
Right.
Okay, great.
So it'll be there, and we're trying to,
Right.
again, not surprise anybody,
No.
and give families a lot
a
of
couple of
time.
In the newsletter.
Yeah.
We'll continue to, but I didn't put it in the letter that went out Monday
No,
because we wanted to lock this
school
down.
committee.
But I agree with you, Tracy. I think your point is,
Huh.
we don't want anyone surprised.
No.
And
Right.
This is a cultural shift. We understand
Really
that. This
is, yeah.
If you think of probably everybody in this room, none of
Sure.
us had this kind of report card. And we all know what A through F is, but what I'm finding, and I feel it here tonight, is whenever Louise talks about this to a group, most people are saying, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I think it does.
Just to say, you know, you can you could try to translate those grades, but there is some teachers, C meant proficient, and so to other people, a B was proficient. You know, and so there was that kind of like, yeah, this is clear. What does it mean?
Yes,
Right.
and also what we want to make very clear is M+ is not an A and M is not a B. It's a
There's
very
no-
different way
yeah.
to think about it. Mastery means you have reached a high standard. You did it. And again, it's saying to the child, you did it. You're the one who got there. And so M is success. So it is a different way, you know, grades are hierarchical, whereas this is more, here's the target, let's get there, let's go. And so M+ is not an expectation for anyone. There will be some skills that some children will be there, and we want to certainly acknowledge that. But it's not the goal, because the grade level standards are very high.
Right, right.
So we
The
want to be
children should
clear
know
about
that,
that,
right.
and really celebrate the M's. That's a celebration. You have mastered, and that's why we chose the word mastery
Nice.
over meets standards.
Yeah,
Right.
You've mastered it.
that's a good word.
I think so too.
And we worked, the team worked very hard. We worked for a year. We probably had 30 drafts and passed them out to all the teachers, said, give us feedback. So this isn't a surprise to the faculty. And they all had lots of opportunities, and we worked very hard to hone the language so it was as clear and encouraging, while at the same time not hiding when somebody isn't there. They're beginning. But again, I'd rather get a beginning on my report card than a D. And it's a hopeful message, but it's also being honest and clear and clarifying across the district, what does it look like when a child reaches M in multiplication?
Right.
This is what it looks like.
And with beginning, you have somewhere to go. Like
Right.
you're on the road,
Right.
you know, you're at the
Right.
beginning of the road, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
D is just,
deflating.
D
Right.
is just,
D is
for
just-
deflating.
you
Like,
haven't
there's no
found
way
the
I can
path.
catch up.
Right, you
Even
know.
a C, you know,
Yeah.
it could be discouraging. And as educators, our job is to encourage and support growth.
Also, it seems like it would be more useful for that teacher that's gonna see the child the next year, grabbing one of these and being able to really assess the
Right.
child before he
See where
goes
they're
into
at,
school.
sure, as
Yeah.
they enter the next
Instead of
grade.
just saying, oh, he's a C or a B or whatever.
What
Yeah.
does that mean?
Mhm.
And sometimes, another feature of standards-based report card that I didn't spend a lot of time talking about, but we separate very clearly behaviors
Mhm.
from grades. So, a child who in school does wonderful work, demonstrates hands-in, proficient, or better work, but it struggles getting their homework done,
Mhm.
that doesn't get averaged into the grade. That is reported, it's an expectation, and it's on the report card as homework, hands homework in on time. So we're not penalizing students in their academic achievement for behaviors that need work.
Mhm.
We certainly want students to hand their homework in, but it doesn't mean they haven't mastered a subject. So in standards-based grading, it's very clear that behaviors and their skills that support learning, they're very important.
Yep.
And in fact, they're on the front of the report card. That was the request of teachers who said, these are important skills, important enough that we want parents to see it first. And for those, there's a slightly different rubric, it's meets expectation, because it's very clear. You hand your homework in, you don't have to master
you don't
that.
master
If you do
that.
it, you met the expectation.
Mhm.
And if you're not, you might be making progress, and if you're not ever doing it, that's also clear. So families will get very clear information about what their child is demonstrating in school. They might know their child did their homework every day, it just is under the banana in the backpack.
Mhm.
And they'll see it quickly.
It is.
So, again, more information and more frequently, in an effort to really invite families in to be partners with us in helping all children succeed.
I think the more we can emphasize that, I think what you said about the ranking and taking that away, and I think that will get a really positive, response from people instead of being, the first in the class or whatever. Yeah, I think that's great I think what also, the M+, I mean, this will give us food for thought in challenging those kids that are at that point. What are we gonna do for them? Because how are we gonna help them,
And frankly, we are able to move to this because we have better assessments than we have. We have a writing program that makes crystal clear where exactly on the continuum of learning to write in various sub-areas, such as informational text, narrative, opinion writing, exactly what it looks like when a child's almost there, when they're at grade level, when they're a little above, and when they're far above. We have a reading chart that we assess children, and we have a very clear standards of where a child is when they're almost there, and then they're above. We didn't used to have that much clarity. So that's why there was some ambiguity of what an A really is. Again, families might initially say, what are all these letters? I know what a B is.
right?
Well, you think you know what a B is.
You think
But
it's an
teacher
80.
A has a different B than teacher
Right.
B.
You think it's
So,
an 80.
yeah, you think. Now, will there still be tests where you get an 80%? Yes. 80% might be almost mastering, but you won't get a B. But you're still, sure, you'll get a quiz, you might get a 95 on a quiz, and the teacher might say to students, if you get over 90, that's showing mastery on this assessment. And so it won't be, it's not that everything we've ever done is going away, it's just we're reframing it in terms of how do we get every child to master these high standards. Any other questions?
So is that where, is the language in this from your group, like the mastery, you said, sounds like was from this group?
Yes,
Yeah.
we looked at language, as I say, all over. We looked at over 85 report cards all the way from Oregon, Washington. Again, everybody's following. The beauty of this Common Core Standards is it has opened the floodgates of resources and conversation among educators across the country. Because no longer is Massachusetts have our own standards that nobody knew what we were talking about.
Right.
Now, when we talk about the grade 3 geometry standard, it's the same standard all over the country. And I can go out and find resources, find schools, what are they doing? Oregon, Washington, Ohio, all over the country. And it has expanded our opportunity to learn from colleagues across the country. And so it was not difficult for me to find standards-based report card. You can go home and Google it, and find, give teachers, here's what people all over the country are doing. And of course, then we looked at what fits our community, what language do we like, what do we not like, and some schools have 4-3-2-1. We found that it would get translated in people's minds,
Right, it
fours
will.
and A's.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be careful about that because mastery is success. So we wanted to be able to have that really be conveyed, and we worked very hard at trying out different descriptors, different words, and we hope this will really resonate with families, that they'll understand it, and that's why we're putting out lots of different formats of information and inviting feedback. I'd be very curious to and interested in parental feedback. This is too much, this isn't enough, and the beauty of having things in digital form is we can amend it if indeed we're getting feedback that it doesn't meet families' needs, because the goal of a report card is to convey to children and families how close are you to being successful in your grade level. And if it isn't doing that, no matter how good we think it is, we'll go back and look at it again.
I think it'll be interesting over the next month or so as we're, it's one of those things, I think you can't tell people enough
Yeah.
about it. And if we do get enough interest to have some sort of evening where parents can come. And,
I think it's gonna be hard for families to let go of those letters.
I do too.
I
I
think
do
it's gonna
too.
be really hard for families to, even though they'll, it is very clear and it
Right.
makes perfect sense. I think a lot of families, I think parents are gonna have a harder time letting go of the
Right,
letters.
right. And I think, yeah, you'll still have people that
Yeah,
won't be
you know.
surprised, but,
We're anticipating that, and that's why we're,
Sure.
offering lots of opportunities
Yeah.
to think about it. We're encouraging, lots of communication to children themselves, so they understand what mastery means, and they can celebrate that. And, we'll welcome feedback, but we know that A, B, C, D, F is not consistent with the direction that education has gone, and that it is not consistent with standards-based teaching. At least at elementary level. At the secondary level, I understand at the very, high school level, sometimes the challenge is, and some high schools have gone standards-based, but the challenge is colleges for GPA.
Yeah.
No one is looking at a child's 5th grade GPA. So we don't have to worry about that. What we need to know is, how am I growing?
Should we just anticipate this and say that either the December or January meeting, we should invite Louise back and tell the parents that our school committee
Sure.
meeting will be, sort of the new report card, I don't know. It just feels like we should,
Oh, I see what you're saying, Tricia.
So be
Yeah.
proactive around
be
the
proactive
notion that
and
it
excited
might-
about it, and it's completely different,
Mhm.
and you're gonna really wanna know about this, and get your questions answered by,
I could come back if that's,
or a separate meeting. I don't know if a school
Or
committee
wondering
meeting
if
is appropriate.
PTO.
Yeah,
I was just gonna
PTO,
say, what
I think
about
that's a great idea.
PTO?
My
PTO.
fear is December, January,
Yeah.
it's in the thick of budget,
Right.
and that could lengthen the meeting, and you might wanna wait and see what the reception is of the report card in December.
Right.
Yeah,
that
well-
doesn't really help kids.
And we certainly want to do it in a responsible way, and so I think it'll be healthy for us to hear through you folks, and we'll get our own feedback from the public around it. We're gonna do as much as we can to prepare. And I'm certain that if we needed to have some kind of forum, and it could be just any, could have one in the cafeteria, I could hold a forum, it could be another night, not supplanting
Right,
this.
Right.
right,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I think your greater message is important.
right.
We wanna make sure that people
Yeah.
understand, because we do need the
Right.
Feedback, yeah.
parents to support this effort.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the first group of parent meetings,
Right.
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 They're gonna get it there, one-on-one
Again,
with the
Right.
teacher.
at the parent conference,
true.
that's where teachers can show what we're calling evidence of the child's learning. So
Right.
saying, in this rubric, your child has mastered or is approaching mastery, this is what it looks like.
Right.
And so that is going to be teachers' responsibility. My responsibility is to at least offer a big picture of what it is. And I'm hoping the PowerPoint on the website might be helpful to maybe encourage people to watch that if they have questions first, and then if they have further questions, to contact Mr. Merritt or myself.
Sure.
And, but I'm happy to communicate in any way that's useful to the community.
I forgot about the teacher being one-on-one with
Right.
the parent.
And
That
maybe,
also-
Yeah.
encourage in your meetings with the teachers to say, when you're meeting with parents, if you get a sense or gauge of how many people are still a little confused and the 20 minutes isn't enough to discuss it, and they could ask, is that something you'd be interested in attending?
And I think, but even by virtue of this conversation, it's gonna be important for me. I'm not gonna take a lot of time at open house, because I wanna get parents to their children's classrooms. But that is something that I'll point to them. Letting them know, of course, they're gonna get it this packet.
They'll get that.
But also to sort of almost make it a
Headline.
launch.
Yeah.
Right,
Here we go.
right.
And
Right,
it's the
perfect
beginning
time.
of a dialogue around this. Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. We appreciate that.
That's good. Great. Any other questions?
Thanks, Louise.
Thank you. Great job. Sounds
Did
like
you
it was
order
a-
the air conditioning, Tim? Is that?
I'm gonna have to grow my hair for
Same way.
for this meeting.
Good luck with that. I couldn't resist. Oh,
We
my
used to end the meetings by 8 o'clock. You spare?
I don't, recycle.
Oh,
Sure. Yeah, we'll take them. Yeah, very good. Thanks.
Next up. Reports. So, I again would like just to welcome Marty and, say thanks for being here and.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and Frontier in our district. And great start to the school year so far, it looks like, and I can't believe it, that was the quickest summer on record for me. And I'll do my Frontier update as well. We had our first meeting the other night and last Tuesday, went over the same policies that we did here today. We cleaned up some finances in terms of getting a bus for Frontier, which is greatly needed, a small van, the van, not a bus, and some other items that will get done in the coming year, and did some financial cleanup. And we also talked about our joint meeting. I don't know if you're gonna mention that, but we
I
did.
can mention a little. You're welcome. You were there.
We had an excellent joint committee meeting with finance committee meeting members, with select board members, and with Frontier school committee members. We had Donna McNichol there, the counsel for the schools, and it was a really great meeting talking about budgets and communication, and I think not just with Frontier, but overall with the superintendent's office and how that's all gonna go. And we're going to have another sort of subcommittee to talk about some changes in language. And you said Scott Bergeron, our
Scott
own.
Bergeron, our own Scott Bergeron.
In
is-
Sunderland.
He's chairing one of the committees, and Andrea Lamas from Conway is chairing the other, so.
Great,
Yeah.
great to, Scott's been around. I actually was on the finance committee meeting with, board with Scott about 1 million years ago, when I first moved to town. So he is very well versed in all of those matters, and is a selectman here. I think that's about all I have. Moving on, and did the collaborative, they met, there's lots of stuff going on at the collaborative.
We spent a fair amount of time in executive session. I can't talk about that yet. But we also are in the process of a search for a new executive director at the collaborative, and a consultant's been hired to help with that process. And I'm actually on the language of this always gets me, but not the I think it's called the search committee, but it's not gonna be the one that makes a recommendation at the end, but doing all the work up to that.
And then
The
you have no
pre-work.
say.
And then well, we all gotta say at the end. Thanks for reminding me. So, yeah, so that's the big thing going on with the collaborative right now.
Great, thank you. Any other meetings happen over the summer with permanent building committee or anything? No, we had talked about that at our meeting too, about making sure that a member from the town on the school committee was on that for the town. I thought, were you too? But I don't know if they've met.
They've never met.
Yeah. You know what, I'm gonna ask Margaret about that.
Okay.
Cause I think,
It does feel
Carlos
like they
will go.
just sort of stopped meeting.
right,
They tell
because
me
it
to
was
about
really gung ho for a little while there, and they were working on the capital plan for all the
Yeah.
buildings, and then we had, issues with the
I
police
feel like we've
station.
heard very little.
Yeah. Okay, I will ask her about that. Next up, Mr. Merritt.
Okay. Well, I've touched on a couple items on the report, and I'll try to keep it brief. Again, I think it's been a wonderful opening. We started off the year with a climate assembly. We brought all the kids in the in our Cafe Sun area, and we just, as we mentioned, we've got we've got over 200 kids. The building and plant hasn't expanded any, so I thought it was important to bring everyone together and just kind of set the tone around how we navigate in the building. And so we talked about expectations, the way we literally walk in the halls, how we respond to the adults in the building, how we respond to kids. And we did some singing. We identified some kids doing good things already, sort of behaviors that we could be proud of. And we also watched Dr. King's I Had a Dream speech as a way of sort of inspiring kids towards, this idea of reaching, of having a dream. We have a lot of new kids in the building. We have a lot of new faces, and we have a lot of new faces on the staff and the faculty as well. So we wanted to make a point of saying, hey, we're all in this together. We're introducing ourselves to each other for the first time, again for the first time, and I thought it was a really positive way to sort of start the year out. And of course, we did some singing. We are, of course, then we're thickly in the throes of the first round of testing, so we did all that, and then we started testing kids.
Then you sang some more.
And we sang some more. Exactly.
Loves to sing.
But we do that first round of testing that Louise mentioned. We have an idea when we leave in the spring about where the kids are going to group in terms of ELA and math, and which teachers they're going to have and this sort of thing. We have a sense of the placements. But of course, there are changes over the summer, and then kids, both improve and regress over the summer. So we do another testing, we fine-tune our grouping, and then we launch into the interventions. And, we hope we'll have some good news maybe in October to tell you about some other kinds of testing that we did in the springtime, and we think we did pretty well on. But Sunderland has done what I think is a really, I'm going to say just a very fantastic job of sweeping the building with our interventions and constantly monitoring the growth of the kids during the semesters in these formative assessments that happen weekly and then maybe every few weeks in a month. And we change up the way the interventions look, whether it's by sending a kid now to a reading specialist or to an IA who's been trained in LLI or to a math interventionist. So it's a real fluid operation here. And we think solidly by the time we start in October, we've got everybody really clearly in places we think they need to be. And then we'll push out the interventions and revisit them in January, full steam, another round of interventions to see how we're doing. So that has taken place. We've got 3 major initiatives that are taking place throughout our district, and Louise touched on one of them right now as it relates to the new standards-based report cards. We're also introducing the Lucy Calkins writing programs, which is a program based out of Columbia University, research-based, and again, a very powerful tool to instruct in writing. And this is being instituted K through 6 in the building. All the teachers are delivering it this year, and it's a major program. But we're doing it throughout the district. There are PLCs, professional learning communities, that have been established on the grade level for teachers to be able to calibrate what good writing looks like, and that's already begun. Teachers are already meeting around that. They're already beginning this rollout of this writing program. And then the other initiative that we practiced in the district last year and we're putting in full force this year is the evaluation tool. And of course, you're all familiar with that. I won't go too much into that, but just to say that the very, very upside of the evaluation tool is we are finding already there are many more very important conversations around instruction that are happening throughout the building, whether it's colleague to colleague or administrator to teacher or administrator to administrator. And while I think all of us wouldn't be telling the truth if we said we weren't just a little nervous about its implementation in the rollout, I think we're already finding that it's producing some very, very positive results. A reminder that, you know, it's about improving, or it's about focusing on student outcomes and student learnings and how we as teachers can get to that point. And once we got over the idea that it wasn't a gotcha, this isn't a gotcha tool that we've got, it's really just an assistive tool that helps us all focus, helps me as an administrator focus on what's really important. You know, we've talked about a lot of different administrative things that have gone on already this year, but there's been nothing better than to sit inside a second grade classroom and watch them as they're doing math manipulatives and trying to understand what it might be like to be a second grader in Lee Worthley's class and what that feels like. And I'm going to say it feels,
It's pretty good.
it's pretty good. It feels pretty
great.
good. But it's a powerful tool, and once we peel away some of the anxiety around it, I think we're going to find that it's going to be perhaps one of the single most important initiatives in public education that we've seen. I don't know if the superintendent will agree with that, but
I do.
I think it's pretty important stuff. And it's caused us all to sort of refocus, and I think that's a good thing. So I think that's probably a good place to finish. Oh, Chief Gilbert, our chief of police, brought donuts and coffee in for my entire staff today. How good. And maybe I shouldn't say that. You know what? He's not going to like that because he doesn't like to appear soft.
No, he doesn't.
Not soft.
We won't tell anyone.
But that was pretty good stuff.
Making the rest of us soft.
Yeah, yeah. So that's my story. And then I'm going to send you all a link on a really interesting article by a Stanford scholar around mindsets. We talked already at a faculty meeting just briefly. We're going to talk more about it this year, about the difference between a fixed mindset of a teacher and a growth mindset. And by the way, this is just a way for us to have interesting discussions at staff meetings instead of talking about housekeeping things. But you know, just to shorthand it, a fixed growth mindset would be a teacher who, when a student walked in, already knew what that student's potential was. A growth mindset teacher is one who looks at that student as a complete blank slate and then encourages growth in that student from the moment the student steps in. So it's very exciting. I'm pleased to say I think, you know, we have growth-minded teachers in this building. But it's always nice to just remind ourselves of what it might look like. So that's the start of the year. Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. I get a little nervous about it's Common Core and we're all gonna look alike. There's so many great teachers here though, and you know, you think of the individual and what they bring forward, and it's,
right.
You know, that's where all of the different and the, you know, the exciting ways of learning come in. So it's much more than all of that, much more. And you can't forget that, you know, what they're doing, you
Yeah.
know.
One thing I'd like to interject, because a lot of people get confused about this, Common Core is not a curriculum. Common Core is saying, if you're both teachers, that by the end of the year in 5th grade, your students will be able to write a well-constructed argument piece. They're not going to say to you how you have to get there, what literature you need to do, you know, to do that, but that your students should have that. And I think there's a lot out in the press that is very misleading, that could have you think that way.
Right.
That you're all going to have a boilerplate and you're just going to walk into a classroom and you're going to be handed your curriculum, and that's not the case. But they're saying these are standards. These are points that we want your students to achieve. How you get there, you have a lot of discretion.
And it's the goal, it's the
Right.
mastery, it's not just, that's what you've got to know. I mean, there's enough of that we
Yeah.
certainly do, but, yeah, very good point, and, very well taken, and moving on to
Superintendent's report. Boy, it feels like we've been in school for longer than. I know when I'm saying we had a smooth opening, it feels like it was months ago, but I guess it was just 3 weeks ago. One of the goals, and Tim touched upon it a little bit, for me is to get into the schools and into the classroom. So on the very first day, I thought it was really important to get to all 5 schools. I don't advise it every day, but it was, and I did get into 18 classrooms. And I've had the opportunity to go to at least 2 or 3 schools every week and sit in on some classrooms. And I can talk about a little bit about what we did here today in Sunderland. We do have this new evaluation software. We do have it on our iPads. I was not able to get a screen capture to bring you an example, so I promise I'll be able to do that. But I wanted you to see how my goals as superintendent dovetail with the district goals, dovetail with the principal's goals, dovetail with the teacher's goals and the student expectations. So it really is a clear line. So I'm not going to have my set of goals out here, and the principal's here, and the teacher's here, and nothing meets. So that's one thing, it really clearly defines it, for us. I'm also pleased to tell you we have a new Director of Technology, Scott Paul. He started August 2nd, and he has had a steep learning curve, and he has been kept very busy, but I'm very pleased with the technology team that we have now. We have a new young technician, Mike Peliquin, who is pretty much in the elementary schools, and so the 3 of them with Stuart is working out quite well. And while this doesn't concern Sunderland, you may have heard through the press that there is a new assessment tool out there called PARC. And the commissioner wrote to me a couple of weeks ago, along with 370 of his closest superintendents, that there were 370 schools, districts, chosen to field test this. Of the schools in our district, it was Frontier 8th grade, Conway, and Whately. They are only field testing 1 grade and 1 subject per school. Sunderland and Deerfield were not chosen. Eventually, this particular assessment, the purpose is to replace MCAS. And it's supposed to be a more reflective of the kind of curriculum that we'll be teaching. It's supposed to be based on the standards. So I'm anxious to actually see what the assessments look like. So we'll take part in that in the spring. The unfortunate part is it's going to feel very test heavy in March especially. So that is a burden that the schools who have been selected will have to bear, but it is 1 year. So I'll let you know more about that. I also just wanted to make you aware, when you start a new job and everything is new, I had a chance to observe the positions in central office. And I know Dr. Nash always spoke of how hard they all worked. And not only do they work hard, as I think everyone in our district does, but their positions have changed and evolved over time, especially with the advent of technology. So we're taking a look at job descriptions and responsibilities. And at some point, I may be bringing some new language in to define those a little more clearly. So I wanted you to be aware of that. One thing that we started this year that I think was well received, we had a new teacher orientation. And we had that on August 22nd. Very social, nothing, we had some informative material. All the principals were there. I asked each principal to come with some fun or interesting facts about your school that typically are not on the website. And so Tim had some things about the buttonball tree and
Yes, ma'am.
some things about
The river and
the
just
river.
being on the right side of the river and all that good stuff.
He was And then we had breakfast, and then we got into a bus, and I went with all the teachers on a bus, and we did a tour of all 5 schools, and I narrated about, where to shop, anything I found of interest along the way, because not everybody is from the area. So it was a wonderful way to get that cohort of teachers together to support each other, and bless you. I thought it was important that they know when we do these grade level meetings that Louise is hosting, that they know where the buildings are. So it seemed to be well received, and I am going to continue that. One of the things too that we are doing differently this year is our administrative monthly meetings. The first hour of the meetings and they're going to rotate between all 5 of the schools. We are going in as a group of administrators into classrooms to calibrate our observation form that has been developed, but to also, the most important part was to have the discussions. So today, a group of 8 of us tromped into Lee Worthley's class, and she was wonderful and welcoming. And then we went on to Ellen von Flattern's class. And so each month we'll go to a different school, but it was the conversation that occurred afterwards. It is very important that we're all on the same page, that we're all looking for the same types of things. And I don't know, Tim, if you want to chime in, but I thought the discussion today was worthwhile.
Very worthwhile. And I
Yeah.
thought that it was, there were a lot of things I took away from it. One of the things I told some of my elementary school teachers was the regard that the secondary folks had for what they saw in the elementary classes, around things like classroom management, around just how on you are. You are on when you're in elementary school. And of course you are as a secondary teacher, but having been one myself, it's different. So it's and I can't wait to get back to Frontier and be able to walk into classes there and see that. So I think it's, as Marty said, I think it's a way of sort of helping us all get on the same page, but it's also a way of helping us all appreciate the work that these folks are doing in these classrooms, you know, at every level, PK through 12, you know, so it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, and our teachers are very welcoming to, you know, and the kids were great.
Yeah.
To see all of us tromping in with our
Yeah, they really were.
clipboards and
Yeah,
looking very
yeah.
official. We tried to blend in as quietly as we could.
As much as we could in the second grade class.
Yeah, I know. But, and the other thing I'm asking each of the school committees, and I'm going to frame it this way, I'd like you to try this for a month or two. We have discovered that it's $700 to mail all of your agendas, and everybody has an email address. I always will have a copy. If somebody forgets, we can run and make a copy here. But if you wouldn't mind, if we could try it for October and November, and if it's problematic, we'll go back to this way. But if I can say.
Email everything? Is
Just
that
to
what you're saying?
email everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, if there's handouts that are at the last minute, I will bring those to you. Instead of mailing all the individual packets.
I'm not kidding. I thought of that when I opened it up. I thought, how much is the envelope and how much does it cost? I mean, you know, we have a small business, so all those things
Right.
really matter. But then I thought, Tracy, you're so cheap. But I think it's $700.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
$700?
Sure it is.
I think email is great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll try it and be honest with us, you know, if it is problematic, we'll go back to the original way. And I just wanted to follow up a little bit with what Justine said. I was very pleased with the turnout Thursday night. Even though it was a Frontier Committee invitation, I really felt it was more of a town and school discussion. And there were 2 subcommittees that were formed, a long-range planning committee and a capital expenditure committee. And there were represented on each committee from all of the towns. People were very thoughtful in their comments. Everybody wants to do the right thing. Everyone wants to support education. Everybody is representing at least 2 different factions, and we all, so it was very respectful. I think I counted 44 people who attended. So it was a large meeting. We are going to have a second follow-up meeting November 14th, which will give the 2 subcommittees time to meet and at least come with a recommendation as to where we'll proceed. I'm also going to invite our state legislators to come in January, once the governor's budget has been established, to give us a sense of what monies we can expect. I mean, it's preliminary. So hopefully they'll be able to accept that invitation. I really am serious in trying to work as cooperatively with the towns as we can, knowing that we represent the best interests of the students. So that's what I have, unless you have any questions.
and to follow up on that, Cindy Womet did a great job.
She did.
There was a lot of us, and
44 people, that's a
she was fabulous, and it was,
big
it was a moving forward. It wasn't about this finger pointing
Right.
or, or the blame game. It was moving forward, what we're gonna do, and positive, and she did a really great job. And Sunderland was really well represented
It
with
was.
Finance Committee, selectmen, and all of the Frontier School
Mm-hmm.
Committee, Frontier people. So
Great way to start.
it was
Yeah,
a
it was.
great
It was a
way
good-
to start the,
was good.
absolutely. I really, yeah, fabulous. So kudos, it was good. Anything else? Any questions, comments?
Just the warrants.
Oh, yes.
They're here.
And do I have a motion to adjourn at 8:21?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:21.
Second.
All those in
Second by
favor?
Doug.
Aye.
Aye. Done, thank you.